Coming up on China Chats.
I think the etiquette comes from the deep in us, in ourselves.
And I know in your work you've had a brush with royalty.
The Prince William and Kate.
Were you and your staff given particular etiquette issues? How you had to greet them, how you had to...
No selfies?
No selfies with Kate? Very disappointing.
Wine etiquette actually is not as complicated as it sounds.
My glass would be generally higher than the others just because I'm more enthusiastic. But that's a real big faux pas.
What are the topics suggested to be avoided or forbidden when we are making small talk?
Like, how old are you? Are you married?
Yes.
It's a compliment. If
Yes,
you're saying you're...
actually it's a compliment.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Welcome to China Chats. China Chats is a FaceTime production brought to you by Guangdong Radio and Television. And I can safely say this is the most important introduction I've ever had to do to a show. That's because today's show is all about etiquette. So what is the etiquette for opening the show? Well, certainly, first of all, I've got to welcome you to the fantastic venue. We're at the Canton Club. The Canton Club is Guangzhou's premier private business, recreation and family club. And so it's a perfect venue to examine some of the similarities and differences between Chinese and Western style etiquette. We've got a very distinguished panel with us today, and as a British gentleman, I feel I ought to introduce the lady first. So on my right is Janice Robb. Janice is a fashion designer and consultant. Now today's seating has been arranged by Mr. James Zhang. James works for the world-famous Dalit Institute of International Studies. On my left, we have Ramiro Gomez Lopez. I rolled my R. Okay? Ramiro is a wine expert, and he works for Nexus Wineries here in China, from Argentina. Correct. Last but not least is Bastien Choca, who is an alumni of the École Hôtelier de Lausanne and is a restaurant manager here in Guangzhou. I should also thank our sponsors today, Bold and Untold and Jogo Studio, who have made us all look so fabulous today. And last but not least, it would be very remiss of me not to welcome you, our live audience. Now, I am going to address my first question to James, because when I did the introductions, I didn't call you Mr. James, and I didn't call you Mrs. Janice Robb. Was that correct?
It is acceptable, actually, and it makes us much closer, and it takes the very formal atmosphere away. That's great.
So, well, I'm very glad to hear that I got that right. What does etiquette mean? The China Chats crew went out onto the streets of Guangzhou, and we're going to hear what some of them think about the word etiquette.
Etiquette is a French word that means proper manners.
Etiquette means manners, acting properly.
两个人或者在这个社会当中，就是人和人操作的或者交往的那个过程。
我觉得礼仪对我来说可能是一种尊重。
你首先就是互相尊重啊。
Letting the girl you're with, your wife, your girlfriend, your mother, sit down or pulling out the chair for her, or letting her walk through the door.
就是你怎么让别人舒服。
Janice, I feel bad already. I didn't pull the chair when you sat down. I feel I've let you down. But James, what does etiquette mean to you?
I think the etiquette comes from the deep in us, in ourselves. We are human beings. We should respect each other, and we should love each other. And by that way, and we should behave properly and speak properly and treat ourselves properly.
Janice, I mean, you travel the world. You've lived in many different places. How do you adapt your etiquette to the country that you're in? How do you learn what the correct thing to do?
You know, I think it happens sometimes, inadvertently you learn on the go.
Yeah.
And it can be really embarrassing. And I've done a few things here in China in the beginning.
Any you can share with us?
Yeah, I do have an example.
Okay.
For the ganbei, right? So you're with your new boss and you're having dinner and everything's going well. And you're full and it's getting tired. And everyone's coming around filling your glass up with wine. And it's time to ganbei. I'm like, I'm full, thanks. No, don't. And then, personally, it hasn't happened to me. I haven't been in that situation. But then the promotion comes around later in the next month, and perhaps you've been overlooked, right?
Because you didn't gambe.
Maybe you didn't gambe. You didn't. But luckily, we're foreign. The Chinese are so great at just. Oh, they're foreign. They'll learn.
That's our get out of jail card. Yeah?
That's exactly.
Bastian, how much, when you were studying in Lausanne, how much was etiquette part of what you were studying?
In the school, they have like etiquette classes, but there's also like on the daily, the lifestyle, they would push you to etiquette. For example, like dressing, if you didn't like shave or didn't dress properly, they wouldn't like serve you food in the canteen.
And I know in your work you've had a brush with royalty.
Well, yeah, with the Prince William and Kate.
Yes. Before they arrived, were you and your staff given particular etiquette issues? How you had to greet them? How you had to?
Yeah, of course. There was like a long list of like
do's and don'ts.
Exactly, do's and don'ts. A lot of don'ts, few do's.
Tell me a don't.
Like cannot really approach them, talk to them.
No selfies.
Like no selfies.
No selfies.
Actually, a lot of staff was trying, but
very disappointing. I'm very upset. You mentioned food, and we're sitting in this fantastic club. It's a great venue. We have in front of us lots of knives and forks and glasses. Ramiro, you're going to deal with wine in a few minutes, but help me out with some of the cutlery I've got in front of me. What should I be doing with it? Bastian?
It's always like from the most far away to the center.
Yeah.
Now the trend is going away from the 15 cutleries and it's getting like much more simplified.
Yeah.
But still, there's always like the first one would be like for salads. You might have like a soup. So yeah, you will start by a soup and then you have like the salad fork and knife, which they're always like smaller than the main cutleries. And after like on top, you have like for the dessert, might have like on the side plate for like a butter with a butter knife.
Mm-hmm. And these at the top.
This would be for the desserts. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you might have like a sorbet in the middle of the course, which we might call it like trou normand.
Mm-hmm. The palate cleanser.
Yeah, palate cleanser, exactly.
And what about Chinese etiquette? If we have chopsticks here, we have the big round tables.
Yes.
How do we do it?
For today, the seat, Janice is the more respected person because on your right, that is the Western way.
Yeah.
But if it is a round table, the left way should be the more respected person.
Is it true that they said how the round table began in China, in the home? And generally, in a Chinese home, the table is round.
Yeah.
Given that historically, it's the wife's choice to have a round table in the home because then there is no head of the household in terms of the man. So everyone's on equal playing field.
That's not the main reason, because Chinese believes that the round shape is the unity and is the wholesomeness and is the happiness and the luckiness and everything good. So that's why the table should be round.
Feng shui. So not equal rights.
That's a culture. That's a culture. Because the ladies often have the meal in different rooms, but their table are always round too.
Wow.
Well, I'd like to move on to one of my favorite types of meals, the buffet. Okay, now, I'm sure we've all had some very interesting buffet experiences here. Remember, do you like a buffet?
We don't used to have a lot of buffet culture in Argentina, I would say. We're more like, just one dish for one person, and then you don't mix too many types of food in one dish. Because what happens when you go on a buffet is that you end up your dish with some sweet things, some vegetables, some meat, some fish, everything in the same dish, and that's not very
I've got to admit, I have seen ice cream with steak.
Yeah.
That's an interesting combination.
Right.
Now, we've talked a little bit about food. There is no proper meal without wine. Am I right, Ramiro?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we went out onto the streets, the Chinachat crew, to find out what people here think about not just dining culture, but whining culture.
Not much. I'm very good at drinking it. That's about it.
I learned how to hold the glass properly. It's not like drinking beer. You just have to be a bit more easy, more gentle.
I'm not totally sure about this, but I believe when you have a guest, you should pour the wine for your guest first.
試酒就俾主位先，首先就要俾個 show 個 label 俾佢睇，然之後佢話同意啦，咁樣就先倒一啖喺個杯嗰度俾佢試。
In China, there doesn't tend to be too much drinking at the start of a meal. Now, different regions, if you go to Shandong province, basically no one finishes their meal, they're just drinking. But in Guangzhou, it's quite a conservative drinking culture, I feel.
If you're at dinner in a Japanese restaurant, the guy pours the sake out into little glasses, and you go, ich, ni, san, ush, and you slam it down. And in Hong Kong, they sit around the gaming tables and they spin the big arrow and it goes around and around and they go, gai yao, gai yao, gai yao. They drink again.
Oh, I know. What do I know? You put me on the spot now. I guess it's wine etiquette. Drink from the glass, don't drink from the bottle. Okay?
It's good to know that we don't drink from the bottle. Would that be correct then, Ramiro?
That would be correct.
That would be correct. And also, I think I'm going to go to Shandong. That sounds like a fun place to go. Okay, having talked about it, Ramiro, you're going to now help us out. We're going to have some wine brought to the table, okay? And you can talk us through some of the wine etiquette, the do's and don'ts.
Sure. Well, I'm very glad to introduce you our family of wine. Wine etiquette actually is not as complicated as it sounds. The first of all is when we serve the wine, we shouldn't serve above half of the glass, but also we shouldn't serve it below a third of it. So in China, usually, a lot of times they just give us a very little quantity,
and I can see people nodding throughout the audience there. Yeah, they
right. And this is ideal for ganbei, right?
Okay.
But we don't do ganbei with wine, actually. So actually, what we're just gonna pour a little bit more. I can stir a little bit. It will wake up the wine. I'm gonna smell the aroma, which is fantastic.
You have to,
of course.
Say that.
And then I'm gonna have a sip, but I'm not gonna have multiple sips from different size of the glass. For a woman, this is very important because then you end up with all your lips, all around the glass, and it's not something you wanna do. So how do we say cheers? In Argentina, we would say salud. Mm-hmm. But the important thing is making a nice noise in the center of the glass and looking into our eyes.
China, no.
It's too intimate.
Yes.
China might, they might.
Don't do that in China.
We'll try it later.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing is that on that side is a very Western part, the wine. So by Joe, there's a lot of rules. For example, like the height of the glass when you cheers to show respect. It doesn't happen with wine.
I find that really fascinating, and that's something I didn't know until my second year in China. When and it's really important for foreigners to know that when they come to China. When you, I'm always like cheers, and it's like okay, no, I'm more posh than that. Cheers. But anyways, my glass would be generally higher than the others just because I'm more enthusiastic. But that's a real big faux pas.
You should be always lower. You should be always lower because you toast the wine, so that should show your modesty or show your
humility.
Yes,
but
respect.
James, I've had some terrible baijiu experience here. I can be at a table maybe with 13 or 14 people, and I'm the foreign guest, and we do one baijiu, one ganbei for all of us, and then one by one they come to my chair, and they one by one, they have 2 baijiu. By the end, I've had 15 baijiu. This is not good.
Not long time ago, I went to a wedding with about 500 people.
Oh my God.
And there was one foreigner.
Oh.
I had to hide.
So you had 500 baijiu.
I totally understand that.
Yes. That happens in South China, right?
Yeah.
If that happens in Inner Mongolia, north part of China, you will have not 30 glasses, you will have 30 bowls. That is the way to show the hospitality to the most special guests.
And what would be the etiquette if you were teetotal, if you didn't drink?
You have to find a very proper opportunity to tell them what is your condition.
My little tip, I suggest you say, I'm on medication. I cannot drink. I'm not allowed.
Oh, okay.
So that's quite
or
nice.
you drive.
Oh, that is very, I think that's a very good point.
Then people will say, okay, I drive you back.
Yeah, that's true.
No problem.
And now there are many, like driver services, so it's not a good excuse anymore, actually.
And no one's driving today?
No.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.
Very nice wine, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Very good. Let's talk a little bit about small talk. When you first meet people, what should we discuss or what should we not discuss?
If I met Janice and I would say, are you a model? Because you're so beautiful.
So you pay a compliment?
Yes, a compliment first.
Bastien?
It's a good point. The small talk in different countries are very different. In Asia, people will be much more direct. Like, how old are you? Are you married?
Yes, that's so true.
Or I love your shoes. How much were they?
Oh, I will always answer them. It is as much as you see them.
Well, now I'm going to ask something of our audience today.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got our first question from the audience.
Well, I'm a recent graduate in a Catholic school in the States. So, like, when I first got there, I had a lot of culture shock. So in China, we kind of have to put both of our hands on the table just to show that, you know, we are in charge of our food and to be polite. But in the States, you gotta, you know, leave your left hand under the table.
Okay.
So, like, how would you reconcile this kind of conflict, or
how do you deal with these cultural differences?
Well, every country has its own rules. Back in France and Switzerland, it would be very unpolite if you keep your hand down on your pants. It should be always like, you know, like on the table. An old school way was like to teach to stay in a table with like 2 books on each of your arms, to just stay and the books shouldn't fall down.
Okay.
But yeah, different countries.
I just remember like my grandmother saying me, "You are not a bird. You're not supposed to eat like this." You know? So it's like you always have your arms like next to your body, and then that's right.
Okay, so thank you for the question. I hope that helps. Okay, can we have another question from the audience, please?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I was wondering, as when we were talking about the etiquette in West, there are some topics to be avoided, like politics, money, and religion. How about China? What are the topics suggested to be avoided or forbidden when we are making small talk, or when we are meeting people for the first time, or even when we're in our social circumstances? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. That's a good question, and I really think there's no limits of the small talks, because everything could be understood.
How about, why have you gained so much weight?
Oh,
so
I'm sure no one's ever asked you, Jen.
Why is your dog so fat? No, she's not fat. She's
because
just...
we have so plenty of good things to eat.
But it's a compliment, right? It's a compliment. If
yes,
you're saying
actually, it's a compliment.
Or it's just an observation that in the East they don't associate an insult to, but in the West we associate an insult to. I think that's what it is, right?
Yes,
correct.
You're right.
No.
And what about something like, I don't know, politics or world affairs? Would that be a...
We actually discuss that, but it depends on the extent, how deep you discuss that. Yes.
Okay, very good question. Thank you very much. We'll take one more. We've got one more question.
This is maybe a little bit a delicate question, but in China, obviously the noise level when you're eating is a bit higher than in the West. Yes. And people tend to eat with their mouth open, or more open than in the West.
Yes.
And maybe another thing would be burping at the table. Is this something acceptable in China? Can you burp at the table? Are you supposed to burp at the table?
James. That's a very good question, yes. I think that's when you feel comfortable, others should feel comfortable too. And then you are making an atmosphere to showing respect, not only to yourself, but also to others.
It's a very good question.
I think you have a very good point there, because I think it depends who are you with. But never being someone you are not, meaning that if I'm not used to make noise while I'm eating, I'm not going to make noise on purpose.
I just wanted to build on your point for a quick second. I had a coworker. I went in. We were eating lunch in this sort of private room, and my friend, a really good friend of mine, she's like, "Oh, I really wanted to enjoy my soup." I'm like, well, you can enjoy your soup. And then I realized what she was saying. She wanted to slurp and enjoy her soup, and perhaps, and as you say, this is perhaps how she's used to it. And if you're used to making noise, and that's how you're going to enjoy it. And I said, "Oh, don't worry, you can enjoy your soup while I'm here." You know, so she was uncomfortable because she knew I would feel perhaps uncomfortable. Yes. But once we put each other at ease, it was fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're right.
Well, etiquette now demands that I bring the show to a close. So this is where you have to fulfill your role as our audience. I'd like to give a big round of applause for our 4 guests today. We've got James and Janice, Ramiro and Bastian. We'd like to thank you for being involved as well. And we're going to be back here at the Canton Club very, very soon, because there are many etiquette issues we still have to cover. So thank you, and we hope to see you again very, very soon on China Chats at the Canton Club.